On today's show, we'll discuss what we learned after Ottawa Senators general manager Steve Staios and head coach Travis Screen spoke to the media.
And we'll give you our cheering guide for the rest of the Stanley Cup Playoffs and tonight's NHL Draft Lottery.
This is Brady Tkachuk, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
You're Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome. You are locked on to the Ottawa Senators, the only daily podcast covering the Sens. On the outskirts of enemy territory, I'm Ross Levitan, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Today is Monday, May 5th, and Pilsy, all the players spoke to the media on Saturday. Today, it was the general manager, Steve Staios, and Travis Screen, the head coach. What was your overall impression after hearing the players recap their season?
Well, I mean, first off, Ross, a lot of content for Sens fans to watch. I believe it was combined the defensemen, goalies, forwards, and then Steve Staios and Travis Green. It's like 2.5 hours worth of press conferences and questions. So shout out to the players and the staff giving them the time to go through things. But I think the one thing that I'm taking away from this, Ross, is this was a big year in growth for everyone involved in this organization. Like if we look at what the end of year pressers look like last year compared to this one, you can see the players have bought in to what the ownership and, executives, general managers, coaching staff have implemented here. They've seen the results of how working this way can go for them. And I think every single guy really talked about how much they enjoyed this year, how much they enjoyed seeing the city of Ottawa come alive for the playoffs. We didn't really have any kind of sad or awkward or tense end of year pressers this year, that's for sure.
Yeah, we had a couple of those last year, of course, but with this season in the books, I think it was a time for reflection. And it's tough, right? It hadn't even been 48 hours since the final buzzer went for Game 6, and all the players are already being asked, what's your future going to look like? How do you recap what you just saw? It's still so fresh and raw, but I think the players all did a really good job of, thanking the fan base for coming alive. A lot of those guys played in empty arenas towards the end of seasons past, but this barn was alive. The city was buzzing. Pills, you got to be boots on the ground for 2 of those playoff games, and it's just that taste that now you want the whole thing. And enough of moose bouches. We want the entree. We want the all-you-can-eat buffet. We want to still be covering playoff hockey through May and into June, but instead it is the off season. And I know it's been almost 2 years, but Billsy, every time I hear Steve Staios speak to the media, I just continually am amazed at how the contrast is from what we've seen in years past. You really don't get a whole lot of information out of him, and I'd say that's for the best. He was asked all the hard-hitting questions. What about Claude Giroux? What about Travis Hamonic? Is he going to be even offered a contract? Are you going to keep the first-round pick this year? We know the Senators have the option of giving away this year's pick or next year's. We also know that the ownership is lobbying to get that reduced. He did say, and I quote, "We know what we want to do. I'm not sure I'm going to share it with you, but it's very likely we keep the pick." So they're keeping it.
Well, and they've alluded to that for the last, 4 months? I think even Michael Andlauer mentioned that was the plan. And I think Steve Staios had mentioned earlier that was the plan. So it's pretty clear that's what they're going to be doing here.
And now with the St. Louis Blues losing, and we'll get to the Stanley Cup cheering guy. What a couple of Game 7. Such a shame we couldn't be a part of that Game 7 atmosphere. So close, but so far. But
we'd be covering a game preview tonight, Ross, if it went to Game 7.
No, it would have been Saturday. We would have been covering Game 1 tonight.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, nice. I like that. So now what I was getting at there is because the St. Louis Blues lost, that means the Senators pick is locked in. No team that finished with less points than them can get to the conference finals, and the teams who finish in the final 4 of the playoffs draft the 4 last spots. So the pick is 21st overall. Do you believe it's the right move to keep the pick?
I could spin zone myself any which way, Ross. If they had decided, no, we're giving it up, I could spin zone and I could see why that makes sense. And I could lobby for why that's a good decision. I could lobby for it being a bad decision. And same goes with the idea of picking the pick. So let's go on the assumption that everything we've heard leads towards the Ottawa Senators making a selection in the first round of the 2025 NHL entry draft. I think it's a good idea because there's still time to change Gary Bettman's mind. We've gone over this. There's been times in the past where the league has changed their punishments. Biggest one is the New Jersey Devils, Ilya Kovalchuk debacle, and that involved new ownership as well, I believe, going into that. So maybe you can find a way to do that because losing a first-round pick is devastating, especially for a team like Ottawa that's just on the fringe of being a middle team. You need those draft picks to hit. But I think it's good too, Ross. This draft prospect profile or pipeline, I'm getting ahead of myself with profiles here, is not very deep. Everybody knows that. You got Carter Yakimchuk, and then you got a few middle round draft picks that have some value and have really played well early in their development. But as far as blue chippers, you need more of them if you're the Ottawa Senators. So there's nothing wrong with being like, hey, we know we've got one this year. We know it's at 21. We can do all our prep. Our scouts can be ready, and we can draft a guy that we believe can change this organization in the first round. And then hopefully we convince Gary Bettman to change his ruling, make it a second round pick, or not have any picks taken away at all would be ideal. But it's a good thing to get more blood into this prospect pool, start development right away, because if you end up giving it up and then picking next year, that's a year of development and a year later of a guy you think can come into your organization and play in the NHL. You're kicking that can down the road there. And I think too, Ross, it's never a good idea to send the message or imply that you think your draft pick might be better next year, even for rebuilding teams. Like that kind of tells your team and the fan base, hey, we don't think we can achieve what we did this year. We think we're going to have a better draft pick next year. So that's why we're going to forfeit this year's and then hopefully pick better next year. I had the same thoughts when they were deciding whether to defer that 4th overall pick or not. It's not good to be like, our plan is to be worse next year to get a better draft pick. So maybe I was a little long-winded, Ross, but those are all the reasons why I think it is a good idea to pick in the first round this year.
Yeah, and that's very good reasoning in terms of messaging, but also just in sheer ability of the prospect pool. It's widely expected that when all the prospect pools come out, the Senators, like the rankings, the Senators will be near the bottom. Yes, they've got a lot of young players, talented ones who are making their mark in the National Hockey League right now, under 25 years old. But at the same time, you need that next wave that starts and pretty much ends right now in terms of as close to a sure thing as you can get is Carter Yakimchuk. Now, will you get a sure thing at 21? Maybe, maybe not, but you're certainly going to get the guy who's going to be number 2 in your prospect pool after this NHL draft. So I'm in favor of keeping it as well. Sure, a little bit selfishly because we will be doing a top 50 draft profiles. We love the draft. If you're new to the show, we've been doing this for a number of years, really since the 2020 draft. But then once we got on YouTube, it got to a whole other level with our like monster mock drafts, which we will be doing again this season. It's just, to me, it's not only important for the organization, but it's important for the players to know that you're not expecting to be worse, as you said. And it's also important for the fan base now to dive their teeth into the NHL draft. Maybe that's just me, but I think it's the right move. You can say that the 2025 draft class isn't expected to be as strong as the 2026 class. That's fair. But if they draft higher than 21st next year, I'll go out and say it. It's a failure. I think you have to build off of what you've seen this season. The goal should be to be drafting 24th or later next year. And not only that, but you're also in a situation right now where your window is opening. According to the management, you hear Steve Staios talk, they took a step this year. We need to take another step internally next year. So if your window is just opening, you want reinforcements here as soon as you can. And the best way to do that is to get this draft pick in the organization.
And Ross, just emphasizing on that point, some of the top contenders in the playoffs, where they really find true value and where they're able to take their team to another level, is when they have guys on entry-level deals making an impact. Because then, like, if you have a guy on an ELC in your middle six, or even just playing anywhere on your back end, that frees up so much extra cap space to make moves at the deadline, to sign free agents. Like, it's just a massive impact. And I know the cap's going up, so that won't have as much of an impact as it has and had in the past. But still, finding those guys on entry-level deals that can contribute in the playoffs is massive.
And when you look at the Ottawa Senators themselves as an organization, their draft capital that they have is a lot more substantial next season. This year, they don't have a second-round pick. They gave it up in the Jacob Chikrin deal like 3 years ago. I still remember being like, take it. It's just a lottery chip from down the road. Well, we've made it down the road. But that said, they acquired a second-round pick in 2026. Sorry, yeah, it's next year's draft that they gave it away. So it's still a year past for the Chikrin one, but they've now given up their own but gotten one from Buffalo. They've also got 3 third-round picks in 2026. So this year they have a first, a third, a fourth, a fifth, a sixth, a seventh. Next year, you've got 3 third-round picks, 2 sixth-round picks, but you don't have a fourth and a seventh. So 1 extra pick in the top 4 rounds, but 3 in the third. I just think even if the punishment stays, you're more set up as an organization to withstand losing a 2026 first-round pick versus 2025. If they're in the Gavin McKenna sweepstakes, we can all look back at this as a big mistake, but we can also look back at this as a complete failure to continue building. So I don't expect that to happen, and that's why I'm very in favor of keeping the pick.
Yeah, and the thing too, Ross, is you gotta take a look at the landscape around you, right? The Ottawa Senators, let's be honest, more than likely will be competing for a wild card spot again next year. I don't see a massive collapse of Tampa, Florida, or Toronto. And look at the other team that was there, the Montreal Canadiens. They have one of, if not the most elite prospect pipeline coming up. And those guys, a lot of them, are ready to make the step to the NHL. So if you're going to have a chance at competing with a team like Montreal that already made the playoffs this year and has a much stronger prospect pipeline and future than the Ottawa Senators do, you got to start chipping away at that and get started as soon as possible. So that's just another reason why it's good to get some more draft picks in here.
The Ottawa Senators have the 21st overall pick. You know who the Sens took last time they had the 21st overall pick?
No clue.
A guy by the name of Colin White.
Oh, boy.
Do you know who the Senators took the second
last
time they had a 21st overall pick?
Nope.
Anton Volchenkov.
There we go. Okay, that's a little better.
All right, and you know who else the 21st overall pick, Pillsy? He is dominating the playoffs, including a huge goal in Game 7 the other night. Oh, no, it was 23rd overall. Close. Damn, that was my teaser for the Stanley Cup cheering guide. I was going to say Wyatt Johnston, 23rd overall. You can get good players in the 20s. We'll get more into what Steve Staios and Travis Green said on the other side. Stanley Cup cheering guide as an Ottawa Senators fan. And tonight is the NHL Draft Lottery. What would be best case and worst case scenario for the Ottawa Senators? That's next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. The Stanley Cup Playoffs are here. And if you've never been to a live NHL playoff game, it's unlike anything else. Take it from me, my first experience this year. The intensity, the speed, the energy in the building, it's all next level. And thanks to Game Time, getting in the door is easier and more affordable than ever. Game Time is the fastest way to grab playoff tickets, even for those must-see matchups. Prices actually drop as puck drop gets closer. And with last-minute deals, you can save up to 60%. And not just on sports, guys, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. Turn on the all-in pricing feature up front so that you can see the total cost. No surprise fees at checkout. The app shows you panoramic seat views, so you know exactly what you're getting before you buy. And with Game Time ticket coverage, I know I'm protected, whether it's cancellation protection, job loss assurance, or their 24-hour return guarantee. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed.
Today's episode is also brought to you by Monarch Money. You ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment? It's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. I just downloaded it this past weekend, and I am all in on Monarch Money. It's not just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop managing your money and start building wealth. Don't juggle multiple apps. Just use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. I did. You can too. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONNHL for 50% off. Half off your first year. All right, Millsy. So, Travis Green and Steve Staios spoke to the media for about half an hour this morning. It's available in full on the Ottawa Senators YouTube page. That was the juiciest topic, so we had to dive into it, keeping the first-round pick this year. Let us know in the comments below on YouTube if you agree or disagree with the decision. Did anything else stand out to you? Because there's one question from Creech that got my attention.
Yeah, nothing too much, Ross. And we talk about it. That's kind of nice and refreshing to not have a wild, outlandish quote in an Ottawa Senators end of season press conference. Steve Staios, Travis Green, pretty professional, pretty keeping their cards close to their chest. They're not really giving anything away, which is less interesting for sure. But that certainly is the approach you want your team to start taking. So I don't have a whole lot here. Like, it was interesting to hear some of their thoughts on certain guys and certain processes and the offseason, but I don't have a whole lot, Ross.
So it was a year and a half ago that Steve Staios took over, and since then he's brought in a director of health sciences. He's brought in a director of analytics. He's brought in Dave Poulin to work in senior management. But Graham Creech at TSN 1200, friend of the show, he asked, is there going to be any more additions or changes to your hockey operations department? And of course, he gave a professional answer. You're always looking to get better. But I have a feeling there will be. And it'll be very interesting to see what direction they go. And I think it'll tell us a lot about where they feel they need to get better going into this offseason. So that, to me, was a nugget where it's not a lot of information today, but I think it is something that we should be looking towards going into the future.
But what do you think that might be? Like, what is this front office staff missing at this point?
Well, if you look at other front offices around the league, there's more people. There's more voices. There's more, I think, like, just decision makers. And I think that Ottawa, you could argue that having a smaller one is good in the standpoint that there's not too many thoughts flying across the room. But I think that if they could just bring another steady presence with a good resume, it could only help them build themselves up to where they want to go. Like, I don't know if it has to be an analytics guy. I think Sean Tierney does a great job, but if they bring in someone who maybe has just a fresh outlook on things and could come in from the outside, much like Travis Green did last offseason, where he's now the head coach and he's got a clean slate with all the players. Now it's like, okay, this management team has been building for a year and a half now. How can we take it to the next level? And I'm not like keying in on one guy, like it has to be this, it has to be that. But I just think an extra voice with a solid resume would only help.
You know where I'd be looking to add someone externally, Ross?
Where's that?
The scouting staff.
Yes.
Steve Sales mentioned it. They've got great scouts here in Ottawa. He cited that as one of the reasons why they want to keep their pick this year. But I just think it would be a good idea to bring in someone externally to add to the mix to this scouting staff. Now, I'm not calling for anyone's job. Never talk about another man's job. I'm not saying someone needs to lose a job or, there has to be massive changes to the scouting staff in Ottawa. But I do think it would be good to bring in someone fresh just because, Ross, you and I covering this team and getting in depth into drafts, we've noticed a trend on the way Ottawa Senators like to draft players. For good end, you got to take the good and the bad. You got to stick to your principles, and that's fine. But I just think it's time to bring in someone else that can change things up a little bit, or at least offer a different opinion.
Maybe push back a little bit because they clearly have a type, big, rugged defenseman, left shot always that can move the puck.
Ross, we Sens fans got acclimated, and I even think started to like the phrase "hard over hype."
Yeah.
Well, now we're switching from hard over hype,
size over skill.
No, to height over hype.
Nice.
The Ottawa Senators playoff mantra, hard over hype. The Ottawa Senators drafting mantra, height over hype.
Height over hype. I like that. Well, hey, look, sometimes you get a Tyler Clevin, sometimes you get a Ben Roger. That's just kind of the way the cookie crumbles. But I would like to see them go for some more high upside forwards in this NHL draft. We'll have plenty of time to break down the NHL draft here on Locked On Senators. I tweeted out our content calendar. Later this week, we're going to project the contracts of the RFAs and UFAs. What are the top offseason priorities for the Ottawa Senators? And then we'll get to our exit interviews where we'll recap the season, basically a season in review of every single player in the National Hockey League, management, coaches, and then we'll get to our draft rankings where we're going to do a top 50. Now, these are always a segment or two. We will still have the news of the day off the top. We will be your team every day here throughout one of the best times of the year. Like, playoffs are obviously number one, but number two, I think for us, is the NHL draft. And now that the Senators actually have some coins in their piggy bank, free agency was kind of fun too. So we'll see if Steve Staios has anything up his sleeve as the Senators look to improve on a first wildcard finish and a 6-game loss in the first round of the Stanley Cup Playoffs, which, believe it or not, are still ongoing. The second round starts tonight. We'll give our Stanley Cup cheering guide from the eyes of two Sens fans, and the draft lottery. That's next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Upwork. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. Well, with Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, developing, design, and more. Experts that are ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries like IT, AI, web development, marketing. So whether you need extra hands for a project or you need a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. If you need help with marketing campaign, Upwork can connect you with a freelance expert who's delivered incredible results already. Posting a job is free and simple. And within a day, you might have multiple qualified candidates to choose from. Instead of hiring full-time, Upwork helps find affordable top-tier freelancers so you can scale your business efficiently. So visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's UPWORK.com, Upwork.com, to connect with top talent and grow your business today.
Today's episode is also brought to you by our great friends over Club EG. Yeah, cue the playoff jokes. It's golf season, and it's time to thank Club EG. Whether you're a male, female, junior, senior, good golfer, or you like slapping it around the course like me, doesn't matter. Club EG has something for you. You can purchase a membership and play over 60 great courses that Club EG partners with. You can join a golf league, go on a golf trip, or play in the Ottawa Sun Scramble, a 2-person scramble championship. It's completely up to you which path you take at Club EG. Check out clubeg.golf for more information and to learn about so many great options that will get you playing more golf this summer. With 60 great courses through Club EG, you have so many options, and as mentioned, their tournaments, leagues, and trips are all top-notch. You do not have to be a member to take part in any of their events, leagues, or trips, but if you want to become a member to play their 60 great courses day in and day out, there's a great early bird special on right now. Head to clubeg.golf. That's clubeg.golf. All right, Pilsy. I should mention as well, the Ottawa Senators did hire Rob DeMaio as the Director of Player Personnel and Professional Scouting almost a year ago today. So we saw a big improvement in their professional scouting when he came in. Look at Adam Gaudette, the season that he had, identifying guys who would help, David Perron and Michael Amadio. So I just think, yeah, a scouting voice would be good on the amateur side, which is something where they've just kind of run it back through the last number of years. Okay, it is the Stanley Cup Playoffs round number 2. What are your overall thoughts on both game 7s that we saw on the weekend?
Epic. I mean, there's two best words in sports, Ross. Game 7, but I'd like to add another one on there. Game 7 overtime. I mean, Oh my God, the Winnipeg Jets. That was incredible. I tuned in late to that game. It was 3-1, 3 minutes left. I was like, all right, let's see how the Jets close this season out in front of their home fans. They get one goal to make it close. Then Cole Perfetti ties it up with 1.7 seconds left. The latest ever game-tying goal in a Game 7 in NHL playoff history.
And it wasn't close. The previous was 6 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, well, 1.7 seconds. Yeah, it's tough to beat that. But as soon as that happened, Ross, I ran to FanDuel to live bet the Jets. I knew they were not losing this game, and leave it to the captain, Adam Lowry, to score the game winner, double overtime series winner to help the Jets move on. Absolutely thrilling hockey. And I'll got to be honest, Ross, I've been a little sad this playoffs. I haven't dived into the playoffs like I usually do. When the Sens got knocked out, I was like, okay, I'm taking a bit of a break here, but I tune in when I see scores are close or I'm excited, and I'm glad I did for that one because it was epic.
Yeah, both Game 7 winners this weekend trailed by multiple goals in the third period.
Yeah, the Dallas Stars were down 2-0, and then the story there is, I mean, the hockey gods, the script writers for the NHL, they were licking their chops at this one. Mikko Rantanen with the hat trick in a Game 7 up against his old club, including the game to ice the game with the empty netter to make it 4-2. Wyatt Johnson got the game winner, but yeah, I can't imagine how Rantanen felt after that one.
Oh, it had to be the best feeling ever. And for McFarland, the GM in Colorado, who traded him out of the conference, to see him in the first round and then have that happen. Oh. I mean, that's tough. But now we've got our second round matchup set. The first one tonight, the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Florida Panthers. I did put $10 on Cats in 4. I did put $10 on Cats in 5.
I thought you weren't a cat guy, Ross.
I'm not, but I am this week.
Okay, cats over Leafs?
Yes, definitely. And I think that it's going to be a great series. Ottawa tried that physical game against Toronto. They came close. And I just think with the high-end skill the Cats have, the confidence after winning the Cup last year, I'm on the Cats, but my first round predictions were awful.
Well, me and you had, I think, almost identical predictions. And yeah, terrible. My Stanley Cup was Colorado-Tampa. Gone first round. Whoops.
Whoops. Unfortunate. So as a Senators fan, how do you look at the playoffs at this point?
Let's start with the obvious. Tonight's Game 1 series, Toronto, Florida. I'm with you, Ross. I'm a huge Florida Panthers fan. We ride and die with the Tkachuks now, from Brady Tkachuk to Matthew Tkachuk.
I got a spin zone on it too.
Okay, let's hear it.
If the Panthers go all the way to the Stanley Cup final again, that's 3 straight years of going to the finals. That's got to catch up to them at some point, right?
Big time.
So could Ottawa finish 2 points behind them this year?
Yeah. I mean, that's a fair point. And like, if there's a team in the playoffs that knows how to get it done in the Stanley Cup playoffs, it's the Florida Panthers. They've brought in new faces. Brad Marchand on the third line. That's going to be interesting to see him go up against the Leafs. I not only want the Florida Panthers to win, Ross, but I want it to be a beatdown. Just like you, 4 or 5 games nothing would make me happier.
Which is so funny because a lot of times when you lose in the playoffs, your thought process is, hey, the team that beat us, if they go on a run, then it's like, oh, we were that close to going on a run. It's not the case with any Ottawa Senators fan right now. Everybody's on the Panthers.
Big time. And Ross, for those people, mostly Leafs fans, that are saying, what a disgrace. These Canadian hockey fans don't want to see a Canadian team succeed. There hasn't been a cup in Canada since 1993. How could you cheer for a Canadian Florida team or an American Florida team over a Canadian Toronto Maple Leafs team? Ross, what is your response?
There's more Canadians on the Florida Panthers than there are on the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Close. That wasn't the answer I was looking for. Go Jets, go Oilers.
Yep. Big time. Go Jets, go Oilers. So let's power rank right now our cheering guide. Because, like, Mark Stone got his cup, and I don't really love Vegas on the best of days. But, like, are you cheering for former Senators, the hashtag Sens abroad right now? Or how are you negotiating with yourself who you're cheering for in the playoffs?
I'm a big Dylan DeMello, Vlad Nemestikov guy. So, yeah, I'm on the Jets. I've been on the Jets for years. And this year, Ross, I had to stop picking them to make the Stanley Cup Finals because I was like, I can't do it again. I believe it was 3 straight years I had them making the Stanley Cup Finals. So I didn't do it this year. Look how it's going. But yeah, Dylan DeMello is such a good dude.
I saw him out and about the other day.
Yeah, he's in your neighborhood. Yeah. Every time we hear people from the Sens talk about him, it's always good things. Vlad Nemestikov, that was a guy I wanted the Ottawa Senators to keep. He's such a versatile player. I mean, he's playing a massive
first-line center.
Yeah, dude, he's playing a massive role for the Winnipeg Jets here. So
I had a comment on Twitter saying, can someone explain to me how a fourth-line guy from the 2018-19 Senators is on the top line of the President's Trophy winning team, scoring a goal in a Game 7?
Yeah, it's crazy, and he's a good penalty killer too. Like, he's
always been a good player, man. We loved having him in Ottawa. It's unfortunate they got him for a 4th and traded him for a 4th.
Yeah, a tiny bit of business there, a little Nemestikov rental. Apart from Florida beating the Leafs, once Florida beats the Leafs, my full allegiance goes to the Winnipeg Jets.
Okay, I like that. My most excited series to watch is Edmonton Vegas. I think that's going to be phenomenal hockey.
All of these series are going to be good, Ross. Like, even you look at probably the one we care least about is Washington, Carolina, but those two teams have beef. Yeah. We remember, was it Chatfield who had that questionable fight where he ragdolled the guy at the end of it?
Michael,
that didn't go over well with the Washington Capitals. If you think Tom Wilson was feisty up against the Montreal Canadiens, wait till you see how he's going to be up against a division rival in the Carolina Hurricanes.
Yes, that's going to be a very hateful series. So, yeah, I think my power rankings, Winnipeg 1, obviously just the vibe around town where I'm at right now. And I think, look, if we could see Winnipeg Edmonton in the conference final, I think that would be a phenomenal series. You really can't go wrong because Dallas and Vegas are such great teams. It's worth staying up late to watch those series, even though Winnipeg gets another 8:30 local time start on Friday, which don't get me started on that one. Unbelievable. Disrespect. But all that to say, my power rankings, I'll go 1 Winnipeg, 2 Edmonton, 3 Florida, 4 Dallas, 5 Washington.
And 6 Vegas?
I guess. I don't really want to see Vegas have success. But I also I have apathy towards the Carolina Hurricanes, and I do not want to see the Toronto Maple Leafs win a single game.
Yeah, nice. I like it. I'll co-sign that list.
Yeah, okay. So the Ottawa Senators, at least the Locked On Senators, join the bandwagon if you want. We'll just go with the top 3. It's Winnipeg, it's Edmonton, and it's the Florida Panthers.
Yep.
And if you want to talk yourself into a divisional team, yeah, you can say that you just want them to be extra sore for next season after 3 runs to the Cup final.
Yeah.
Pilsy, the other side of this thing that we call the Stanley Cup Playoffs is the NHL Draft Lottery, which will take place tonight. And it's nice not being in it, to be honest, because the last 2 years, Ottawa has had very slim hopes of moving up, and you see them just stay in the same spot. And it's like, all right, it's going to be held live for the first time. Usually they do it in like a back room, and then they just pull up the cards. It's going to be done live tonight, so I'm going to tune in. It's going to be at 7 o'clock Eastern tonight from the NHL Network studios. The highest odds to draft first overall are the San Jose Sharks, number 2, the Chicago Blackhawks, and number 3, the Nashville Predators. You can see the whole list online. You just type in draft lottery odds, but an Eastern Conference team better not win the lottery. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a big thing. Ross, you mentioned it's happening live. I wonder if that's due to maybe Frank Saravalli ruining any kind of draft that's happened. Somehow he tweets it out all early, so this time they're like, no one can ruin it. But yeah, San Jose, Chicago, Nashville, the
Let's
top
get
three.
Seattle. Let's get Seattle to pick. If someone's going to move up.
I wouldn't hate that. Yeah, Seattle definitely would be a team. But the number one thing we don't want to see happen is Boston. I wouldn't be that upset if Philly got it, but Boston or Buffalo, we don't want that.
Especially after Buffalo made their push towards the end of the regular season. They've got a 6.5% chance now of getting that pick. A lot of teams at 6, 5, the Pittsburgh Penguins, Islanders, Rangers. These are all very, very low odds to win the draft lottery. And at this point, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm kind of scrolling down. Only the teams with the 10 best odds are going to be able to get the first pick. If a team somehow with 0.5% odds like Vancouver moves up, the highest that they can jump is 10 spots, and then everything will stay the most. But I think in terms of most deserving, it's the San Jose Sharks, right? I know they got it last year, but they've got such a fun young core there in the Bay Area. And I think that they're going to be a team that gets better next year. So for them to be dead last, they were completely brutal this season. I think I'd be happiest if it's San Jose that wins the lottery. They have the best odds, so not a hot take at all. But in terms of where their roster construction is, how it affects the Senators and everything else, I think my vote is for the San Jose Sharks.
And it makes sense, Ross. Like, that's a team that has a lot of really good young forwards up front. The expected first overall pick, Matthew Schaefer, defenseman, combining him with Dickinson, that would be a big boost to the San Jose Sharks organization.
And final thought on the draft lottery with the first overall pick, because the last 2 seasons, it's gone to the Western Conference. Macklin Celebrini this past year and Connor Bedard the year before. But get this, Pilsy. 7 straight first overall picks came to the Eastern Conference between Connor McDavid and Connor Bedard.
Wow. So the little Connor bookends there. That's crazy.
Isn't that crazy? And before that, it was a bit of a run in the West, but it
was just the Oilers every year.
It was a bit of a run for the Edmonton Oilers. Went Edmonton, Colorado, Florida, Edmonton.
That's insane.
Yeah, but yeah, it was Austin Matthews, Nico Hischier, Rasmus Dahlin, Jack Hughes, Alexi Lafreniere, Owen Power, Uri Slavkovsky all came to the Eastern Conference. So let's keep that first round pick out West, eh? You know what? Keep the top 2. Keep the top 2, and we'll work on that. But worst case scenario is the Boston Bruins, right?
Worst case, easily, yeah, because I think they're a better team than people are giving them credit for.
Swayman can't be as bad as he was last year, and they still have Pasternak and McAvoy.
Yeah, and those guys had massive injuries this year, didn't? Not Pasternak, but McAvoy, right?
But not Swayman either. He was
not Swayman. Yeah. And I actually, you know what? The moves they made at the deadline, I know they're underwhelming, but I think they did a good job balancing out their roster, and I think you're going to see a big offseason from them because that front office is under a lot of pressure right now, especially Ross. After the decision to fire Jim Montgomery, he goes to St. Louis, saves their season, brings them to a Game 7 in the playoffs, and you miss the playoffs?
I actually changed my mind. I want Seattle first, Anaheim second. You know why?
Why?
That moves Boston down 2 spots.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I like that.
Get him a nice 7th overall pick. But yeah, we'll be watching the draft lottery tonight. We'll discuss it tomorrow on Locked On Senators. We also will have our off-season priority list for the Sens. What needs to happen so that the Sens can take another step forward next season? We'll discuss that on tomorrow's show. Pillsy, any final thoughts today?
No final thoughts for me. Just sad that it's not the Sens playing in Game 1 or Round 2 tonight.
Yeah, so am I. We appreciate everybody for making us your first listen each and every day, the everydayers, the citizens. It honestly means so much to you. The last month has been everything we could have imagined and more when it came to the first round in terms of content. So now content's one thing, success for the organization is another, and that is going to be how we handle this offseason now that there will be higher expectations going into this group next year. Lots of time to discuss. Thank you for liking, watching, listening, and subscribing to the show. If you enjoyed the video, hit the thumbs up below. Please leave a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been another edition of the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.